bachelor. Well, he swore he was the Oklahoma Kid. And Cookie played hooky to go and see the Duke. And me, I always loved Willie May. Those were the days. Well, now it's the 80s, and Brett is the greatest, and Bobby Bonds can play for everyone. Rose is at the vet, Rusty again is a Met, and the great Alexander is pitching again in Washington. I'm talking baseball, like Reggie Quisenberry, talking baseball. Carew and Gaylord Perry, Seaver, Garvey, Schmidt, and Vida Blue. If Cooperstown is calling, it's no fluke. They'll be with Willie, Mickey, and the Duke. Duke. Say hey, say hey, say hey. It was Willie, Mickey, and the Duke. Say hey, say hey, say hey. I'm talking Willie, Mickey, and the Duke. Say hey, say hey, say hey. Willie, Mickey, and the Duke. Say hey, say hey, say hey, say.
You are tuned to KFCF 88.1 Fresno. Baseball songs today, right there. Willie, Mickey, and the Duke, the talking baseball song from Terry Cashman. And we're about to talk baseball here, I believe, with Jeff Polman. Hi, Jeff.
How you doing there, Rick?
I'm doing pretty good. How you doing?
I'm doing great. It's a little gray down here in
Culver City?
Yeah. I'm down in Torrance.
Oh, you're in Torrance?
Yeah. Today is where my exciting day job is.
Okay. What do you do?
I'm a graphic artist for a magazine publishing company, but as you know, my forte is writing too.
Yeah, you've written several books, and mostly about baseball, right? Or at least based on baseball, 1924, and also You Are There, and Ball Nuts. But the new one, Mystery Ball 58, is the one we're going to talk about today. But before we do that, let's get a little background on you. You're a journalist and screenwriter, and obviously you're also a graphic artist. But you grew up a Red Sox fan, so you must be from. Are you from the East Coast?
Yeah, I'm from Western Massachusetts,
Okay.
outside of Springfield, which is about 90 miles west of Boston. That's why I don't have a Boston accent. But I grew up there and went to school at UMass Amherst and lived up in Burlington, Vermont for about 5 years before moving out here about 82. And I've remained a Red Sox fan. I've kind of adopted the Dodgers a little bit, but not much.
Uh-huh.
And the squabble they're having now with their TV broadcasting rights issue is just scandalous and horrible. So it's kind of turned me against them a little bit. But I'm basically a fan of every baseball team except the Yankees. So
yeah, well, that sounds about right. If you're a Red Sox fan, yeah, those damn Yankees. I felt for you all those years. You know, the Red Sox. Gosh, it was amazing how tragic it was. They come close so many times, and then some freakish thing would happen. You know, like a ball going through Buckner's legs, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Was it a big relief for you, like a lot of Red Sox fans, when they finally turned the corner and won the World Series a few years back for the first time?
It was a huge relief in 2004.
Yeah.
In fact, it's 11 years later. I'm still in shock that they beat the Yankees in that playoff series. I rewatch it every winter. I'm just still in disbelief. They got beaten 19-8 in Game 3, and then won 8 straight games.
Yeah.
All the way. I mean, that was just still amazing to me. So yeah.
Well, in some way, Giants fans can relate, because up until now they're sort of a dynasty. You know, up until the last 5 years, they won 3 World Series out of the last 5. But up until then, they'd had a string of bad luck as well. Came close a few times. I think 62 or 63 came real close to winning a World Series. But other than that, a lot of lean years up until now. And your book basically it takes place in San Francisco in 1958, the first year that they had moved west. They were playing at the old Seals Stadium AAA ballpark at the time. And why don't we talk a little bit about how you got around to writing this book and the process that you went through? Because I'm thinking you must have had done a lot of research on the history, because you bring in a lot of characters, actual characters who were around at the time, and mix that in with a mystery novel. Why don't you talk about a little bit about how you went about writing this book?
Well, actually, all three books that I've written were pretty much the same process. For many, many years, I've been playing this great strategic baseball board game called Stratomatic.
Oh, yeah.
I think a lot of people are familiar with.
Yeah.
And I was playing it so much that I figured, well, why don't I try to do something creative with this? So what I would do is play an old season and then make a story with characters and kind of wrap it around the action. And I did it with 1924 and wrote a blog about it that lasted about a year. And then I did the same thing with 1977. That was originally called Play That Funky Baseball. And the book version is called Ball Nuts. And then this one, which was 1958, Stratomatic released the 1958 season, and I immediately thought some kind of murder mystery genre would be perfect. I love San Francisco, and I really like the Giants, and there's something about the whole culture up there, and the fog, and it just seemed to be, and Vertigo, of course. Vertigo, the Hitchcock movie, and just felt it would be a great kind of murder mystery theme would really work. And I'm very happy with the way the blog came out, and even more happy with the way the book came out. For the book versions of these things, I tend to I trim them down. I take out a lot of the game action. There's still game action in the books, but there's much more on the blog and a lot more photographs and things like that. So the book version is pretty much just the story part, particularly in this instance.
Mm-hmm.
So that was it, and the character Snappy Drake, who is an usher at Seals Stadium, used to be a Pacific Coast League pitcher in Vancouver and other places, and now he's like in his late 30s, and he's gone to sea a little bit. And in his opening day of 1958, the very first game the Dodgers and Giants play on the West Coast, he finds a dead body in the grandstand after the game. And it becomes this whole scenario where he's being framed, and he's got to try to find out who's doing this. And the whodunit lasts the whole season.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of characters were involved. I was able to use Jack Kerouac and famous Latin jazz musicians. There's a scene
Mongo Santa Maria.
Mongo Santa Maria at the Mongo Room, where he's Orlando Cepeda and Ruben Gomez are there, and Ruben Gomez is trying to pick up Liz, who is Snappy's friend. Right. She's a reporter from the L.A. Herald.
She's sort of a femme fatale character as well.
Yeah, exactly. You're not quite sure what's going on with her.
Yeah.
But then the other thing I wove in was the kind of unspoken history of the building of Candlestick Park, which was very kind of a slimy sweetheart deal going on between the city and Horace Stoneham, and I involved a lot of that. I found some great stuff about a guy named Henry North, who was a kind of a city councilman who was trying to kind of investigate the deal and just getting boatloads of crap from everyone about it. And so I kind of found a way to work that in. I think it came out as kind of a fun read, mixing mystery and baseball as much as possible.
We're talking with Jeff Polman. He's the author of Mystery Ball 58, and that's the book we're talking about. And you bring in a lot of characters, and that's why I thought you must have done a lot of research to delve into that with Horace Stoneham, the owner of the Giants, or I guess he was the owner, actually. And the sweetheart of a deal, he got to go out there at Candlestick Point, which in some ways was sort of a debacle for all those years. I mean, it was too cold and breezy out there, but yet that's where they decided to build the ballpark. Yeah,
I know, and it kind of pains me that they didn't just stay with Seals Stadium.
Yeah.
and double deck it or something like that, and knock a building down and put up a parking garage. Or I mean, it just seems like they could have done it, but back then everything was expansion and room, and that's just the way their mindset was. And I'm sure he felt he could make more money with Candlestick, Stoneham. But the site now is occupied. Seal Stadium is occupied by a Petco, and
wow.
kind of depressing. But there's still a fabulous place called the Double Play Bar and Grill across the street,
which it takes place in. I mean, a lot of the sets in your novel are from there. I've got
a lot of stuff in there.
Yeah.
In the book.
Yeah.
And I went and had lunch there when I visited, and it's a really fun place. It's got a lot of Giants memorabilia and stuff.
That, I think, would be the trick to your book, is the timeliness of it, going back and making research to make sure that those places and the people were there at the time that you're writing about.
Yeah. Well, the internet is a marvelous thing. I mean,
it's true.
You Google anybody and anything, and pretty much do what you need to do.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I was hoping maybe, Jeff, you could read a little passage from the book.
Sure, I'd be happy to. They're pretty short. The chapters are pretty short. If I get through quick, maybe I can I'll read a second one. But
sure,
me.
Sure, no problem. We got time. Don't worry. Don't worry about that. If you got time, we got time.
This is actually the second chapter, day after he finds the body at Seal Stadium, and it's called Perfume at Midnight. Totals for our opening series with the Dodgers: 3 knuckle-chewing one-run games, 68 combined hits, 52 suckers left on base, 2 wins, 1 loss, and 1 corpse with a knife in its back. I would have passed out right then if I had a choice in the matter. Spent at least an hour with the cops after that opener. One of them was built like gorgeous George Wagner, but his suit was too small. The older one, who asked all the questions, actually was named Malarkey, smelled like scallions, and probably hadn't smiled since before the Depression. They had nothing on me, but you wouldn't know from their attitude. They didn't know the stiff's name because his wallet was gone, and no one had come looking for him yet. Not one person in the stand saw what happened. All the cops found was a piece of paper in his pocket that said, "A band on," with the rest of the sentence, or whatever the expression was, torn off. Afterwards, I was so annoyed I tipped a few more ham drafts than usual across the street at the Double Play. Chumpo poured me a free one when I told him the story, and then Reggie Fleming and Bob Stuckey arrived. Reggie and Bob were my partners in inebriation after Seals games. Reggie was in construction. Bob sold 9-inch screws, and if they didn't start a lame-brained argument on a given day, then that day was ruined. This one was about Horace Stoneham, the Giants' owner, supposedly making a land deal to build a brand-new park for the team the next few years. Bob didn't believe it because he was sure they were going to double-deck Seals. Reggie did because he had ears in the land grab trade, and so they were off. 24 hours and our first night game victory later, Reggie and Bob were still at it. I got bored, paid my tab, and hiked down the hill to my walk-up at 15th and Van Ness. The usual clammy fog was rolling in from South Bay, the thick kind that makes even mailboxes look spooky. I hiked to the top of my creaky wooden steps and stopped. A woman stood there in the shadows. I couldn't see her face, but the perfume she was wearing convinced me she had to be a looker. What I could see was a cloud of cigarette smoke blowing toward my face from where her head must have been, and a smart navy skirt that showed enough leg to keep my shoes stapled to the porch step. "Mr. Drake? You could say that. I hear you found that body after the game yesterday." "Yeah? Says who? It was in the papers. Too bad I don't read them. Can I help you?" She dropped her cigarette, pulverized it with a high red heel, and emerged from the shadow. I was dead right. She was blonde, late 20s, with a sweet, farm-raised face that made you want to whinny and a gait to match. She held out a slender, very white hand for me. It was holding a business card. I read her name out loud the way it looked. Liz Dumas, Los Angeles Herald-Examiner? Yes, I'm one of their crime reporters. I was hoping to get an exclusive interview with you. And Dumas is pronounced Dumas, by the way. It's French. Well, I'm pretty damn tired right now, and I need to sleep. The finale tomorrow is a day game, you know. Oh, I know. So good night. I took out my key, stepped past her to the door. Her hand found my shoulder. Please. The police were no help at all. You must have something more. Hey, lady, I don't know you. The guy had a knife in his back, okay? For all I know, he was a Dodgers fan. Was he? Because forget it, okay? I don't know any more than the cops right now. Not to mention, Miss that my feet are about to fall off. She stood there with a sweet, pathetic pout, like a lost schoolgirl. I felt bad all of a sudden. Hey, I don't mean to be a jerk. You just caught me on a bad night. Besides, you haven't even told me what that perfume is you're wearing. She smiled a little. It was a nice smile. Diosimo by Christian Dior. $10 says I remember that. I unlocked my door and stepped inside, stood there and waited for her high heels to make it to the bottom of the steps. Then I killed the outside light. After the last game, another madhouse of runners all over the map, and this time an extra inning loss, I went under the stands to the usher's room to change my clothes. Johnny Heap, one of the janitor boys, walked up behind me and handed me a sealed envelope, said that this actress-looking girl just gave it to him outside. I opened the thing, read the piece of paper first, which said, "Please come, Liz." Inside the paper was a ticket to tomorrow's Giants-Dodgers opener at the Memorial Coliseum and a plane ticket to Los Angeles.
Great. Yeah, I can. That's such film more. I can almost see like Snappy being played by Cornell Wilde, and maybe Liz being either Gloria Graham or Ida Lupino, or somebody like that. Do you have another little piece you want to read?
Yeah.
You got, we're okay. Yeah, we can. If we got another short one, we can definitely fit it in.
All right, this one's fun because I think your audience would like this. Liz and Snappy go to a poetry reading at a place called Coexistence Bagel in the city, and they meet Jack Kerouac at the end of the reading. So the next chapter is kind of them hanging out with Jack. It's May 10th. This one's called The Dharma Cats. The Dodge bounced down Route 82 the next afternoon like a squeaky supernova. Liz was half-turned next to me, getting an earful of Kerouac from the back seat and sharing his bottle of cheap Chablis. I did all the driving because, as Jack put it, I'd rather watch someone at the wheel than use one. Either way, we were off to find the it of our murder case. I can tell you things and show you things, Kerouac said last night after the Coexistence Bagel poetry party. He was jazzed about helping us with the murders, but downright bebopped over my made-up baseball poem. It made sense. Jack was a huge baseball fan, and a few years ago created a whole fantasy game using hand-drawn cards and fictitious teams. I know this because he pulled a set out of his coat and showed them to us while we were driving. I'm partial to the Boston Fords, but I think the New York Chevys will edge out the Philly Pontiacs for the pennant, he said. Now, a made-up fantasy baseball game has to be the nuttiest thing I've ever heard of, but Jack could sure write, so I cut him some slack. Liz didn't have that much interest in the cards, gooing him the whole way and purring over and over how much she dug on the road. Got a new one coming out this October, Kerouac said. Not sure what I'm calling it yet, but I kind of like the Dharma Cats. Liz then made the mistake of asking what Dharma was, making the next 20 miles a traveling Kerouac seminar on all things Buddhist. I finally interrupted to ask where the hell we were exactly going. Faith in time, brother, faith in time. He handed me the last wine glug, told me to stop at the next liquor store we saw. I wasn't too keen on that, said as much, and he sulked a bit till we got onto Highway 101. Yeah, I'll be humble now. We're on royalty. We're on what? El Camino Royale, the Royal Road, connects every mission from Sonoma all the way down San Diego Way. Didn't you see the sign and the little bell over it? Used to be over 450 of those little ding-dongs. Again, where are we going? See, the way I sauce it, your killer man's got to be whack crazy, right? Definitely not cool enough for Frisco. Trust me, Jack, said Liz. There's plenty of crazies in that city. Friendly ones, maybe. Ones without beds, without coins, without food, happy to lay under the dippers, surrounded by gutter piss, and drink their lives down the toilet, all the time wishing they'd done that thing, that supreme thing that could have saved them from watery soup and holy garments of stink, saved them from, hey, I shouted, where the hell are we going? He looked at me with a blank face for a moment, then just shrugged, waved a hand at the windshield. Down 101, about 60 miles, got a feeling about a place. He winked and grinned at Liz, who I was convinced would follow him to Death Valley and under the sand if he asked her. We got off Highway 101 past Redwood City. I headed up a twisty mountain road in the direction of the Pacific. I nudged Liz. He's an isolated guy, right? Has to be. Probably likes it. Maybe makes me think he's up in the wild here. Oh, spoke up Liz, looking a little green on the narrow road. So you're saying we're going to wherever just because you have a hunch? My hunches are always worth it, baby. We stopped for early dinner at a mountain eatery that served buffalo burgers. Kerouac gobbled down 2. Liz and I ate chicken sandwiches real slow to settle our innards, and then we hit the road again. It was getting dark. After another 45 minutes of hairpin turns, Jack finally said we should stop at the next trail sign. The answer is up here. It's always up here. So you've been on this trail before? Hell no. I'm about as comfortable in the woods as a lobster in a pot, but the route to the top of this peak was certainly a nice change from the smell of the sidewalks. Besides, it was Liz's crack-brained idea to take Kerouac up on this little day trip in the first place, meaning at least I could blame it on her later. The sun had just set when we reached the top. Our new friend pointed out Half Moon Bay off to the north, slightly covered in evening fog. Stars were filling the sky overhead, an absolute planetarium just for us. Kerouac was ecstatic, pulled a bottle of Hiram Walker out of his black jean pocket we didn't even know he had, took a big sip, handed it off to Liz, and lit a cigarette. Figure it out yet? Huh? You're a baseball killer. Know how to get him? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. We thought you were showing us where he was, Jack. We thought you knew something, maybe even a save the point. You sure as hell told us much. No, sir, I didn't. I said I know things, and I do know things. I've been to more places on this heavenly continent than the two of you could ever dream of. I know what makes men cry and wail and bleed and screw and, yeah, even kill. It's the darkest of dark places, and there's always a reason, Snappy, always a reason. Feel that dark soul of his, the way the sky and these stars and that ocean down there is feeling you, brother. Crawl inside that evil skin of his and find that evil reason, and you got him stone cold. Yes, sir, you do. Okay, let's head back. He pocketed the brandy, started back down the trail. Liz and I wanted to put on our evil skins and kill him right there. A half hour later, we took a wrong turn and got hopelessly lost. The fog poured over the mountain, making the trail all but vanish. We had to find a shallow cave to spend the night freezing and cursing in. Kerouac just slept like a baby, cradling his brandy bottle. Look at it this way, said Liz, her teeth chattering. If we make it down the mountain alive, I'll have a hell of a story for the Examiner.
Yeah, that was great. Well, it's Jeff Polman reading from his book, his new book, Mystery Ball 58, A Season-Long Whodunit. And I love how you weave those characters into the book like that, Jack Kerouac and Ferlinghetti at one point, or at least at his City Lights bookstore, and that sort of thing. I asked you in an email if you could come up with your all-time favorite. Whenever I do a baseball show like this, and if I have a guest, I like to find out what their all-time baseball team is. And
sure.
I'm wondering if you got one put together for me.
Yeah, I did. I'm assuming not necessarily the ones who are the greatest at each position, but
Right.
the ones that I kind of like at each position.
Absolutely.
So I'm at first base. I'm going with Lou Gehrig.
My choice, too.
I mean, kind of in the shadows of Babe Ruth in a lot of ways, because Ruth
Yeah.
is so exceptional, but Gehrig's numbers are just completely
Phenomenal. Yeah.
Second base, I like Joe Morgan. His 75 and 76 years were just two of the most amazing years by second baseman ever. Guy did practically everything. Shortstop, got to go with Ernie Banks. Just a great player and kind of a tragedy.
Yeah.
Real tragedy. Never made the postseason.
Yeah.
Third base, had a tough time thinking about this one. I went with George Brett. I just used to see a lot of George Brett, when he played in the 70s and stuff. Just loved his swing. Just loved the way he kind of hit a lot of, when he would just go the other way, rear back on his back leg into the last second and line it down the right field line. He was just really fun to watch. My favorite player of all time was left field, Carl Yastrzemski.
Yeah.
Grew up with him. 1967 was my first year. Really got into baseball because the Red Sox, that was the first year they were good when I was a kid. And I probably might have been Ted Williams if I had ever seen Ted Williams play, but never did.
He could be your DH.
So, well, I got other guys for that. But center field, I'll give you the runner-up. My runner-up was Mickey Mantle. But I'm going with Willie Mays.
Yeah.
For my center fielder, who just was amazing to watch. I was lucky enough to see him play on the Giants. I think it was late 60s. He was still there, and saw him play in Shea Stadium one day. Right field, my runner-up is Roberto Clemente.
Great arm. Great arm.
Phenomenal player. And but I'm going with Hank Aaron for that.
Sure.
For right field. Real quiet slugger, just so incredibly consistent every single year. Catcher, my backup would probably be Roy Campanella. I wish I had seen him play. But I'm going with Carlton Fisk, who I also kind of grew up with in the 70s. I saw him at a home run his rookie season, and, of course, he had the 1975 Game 6 home run, which is epic. DH, let's see. DH, I've kind of got two guys tied for first for DH. David Ortiz, for obvious reasons, and Edgar Martinez, who just was an amazing hitter. The guy could barely run, and he would hit like 340 to 350 every year. He was just great. Pitching, right-handed pitcher, never saw him, a little too past my time, but Walter Johnson.
Oh, yeah.
Yes,
the Big Train.
The Big Train, read some books about him. I just love even watching the little clips of him that you can find where he's got this kind of like buggy whip delivery.
Yeah, he sure does.
Oh, man. And lefty Sandy Koufax.
Oh, gosh, yes, yeah.
Who was just one of the best ever for about 3 or 4 years there, and then just fell apart quick. But those years when he was good, he was just incredible to watch.
Yeah. That's a formidable... I'm sorry, keep going.
I just finish up with a closer. I like Raleigh Fingers.
Raleigh. Yeah. Great fireman. Well, that's a great team. That's a very formidable team. I think they'd win a few games. Well, thanks so much, Jeff, and we're hoping we can get you to come here and do a reading and, hang out at some event and share your book with other people. Speaking of the book, how can they get it?
Mystery Ball 58. You just Mystery Ball, 2 words, and you just type that into Amazon, and it's right there.
Okay.
There probably will be a Kindle version, not quite yet. Before I leave, I just wanted to mention the cover art, which is by this wonderful designer named Bethany Heck.
Oh, it's a great cover.
Does a lot of baseball stuff, and she has a great site called the EFIS League, and wanted to get her name in there, but. Also, if you buy the book, you've got a bigger version of her great cover art. and you get on Kindle.
No, it's a great cover. She did a great job. And you have a blog, or I'm trying to. I'm kind of a Luddite, so I don't know too much about that. But you have sort of a blog. Or?
I have I have a regular blog just for all different kinds of writings I do. JeffPolman.com. I write a lot for the Huffington Post, and I have links to other stuff there. Yeah, and I try to post every few weeks something. So. Not always baseball related. I did one last week about walking my cat around the block, which was kind of fun.
That would be a challenge to walk a cat, yeah.
I just want to also say, Rick, that I love your show.
Thank you. Oh, thanks. I appreciate that. I appreciate that very much. Well, Jeff, you have a great day, and we'll hope to see you in our neck of the woods here soon.
No problem.
Okay, take care. Thanks again.
Bye.
Bye-bye. That's Jeff Polman, author of Mystery Ball 58, and it was a pleasure talking with him. Well, it is... It's 11:03, so it's a little late for my thrift store record of the week, but better late than never, I say. So let's go ahead and launch right into that. I know that in the book, the main character, Snappy Drake, he drinks a lot of Ham's beer. So we'll start off, we'll use the thrift store theme that kind of uses the old Ham's beer commercial jingle, and we'll play you a thrift store record of the week that relates to baseball. Here we go.
Goes like this. It's the thrift store record of the week. It's the thrift store record of the week. Hi-fi, you buy and try to play, that's